Welcome, everybody. This is a really exciting conversation we're about to embark on, and really exciting that the Vans Warped Tour is back in Canada. Now, Toronto, you're going to have to go to Montreal. So let's just start there. Why is Montreal the right spot to replant this?
Well, my relationship with Evenco goes all the way back. You know, you got Nick Farkas and Daniel Sancho, and these people were people who got what I was doing. There wasn't a lot of people that understood what I was trying to do when I started out. And Toronto was a lovely place. I remember being here. My first time here was 1991 with Lollapalooza, the old C&E. But Montreal's been a great place. And then as we bring this back, and we've been really looking at the economics of trying to make this work, because Warped Tour is about a reasonably priced ticket, or the most reasonable possible. Evenco does some wonderful festivals, including Osheaga at that time of year. So I was thinking about, like, oh, maybe we could package in, because it is so important to kind of look at, not only do talent fees go up post-pandemic, but the infrastructure of toilets, fences, all those things that you see at a festival have gone up so much that if you could package it up and amortize some costs across some festivals. And they also have a country festival. So we're the third festival on the island that summer, so that foot of fence is hopefully going to cost us, you know, a third each, and that was a big thing. But they understood the culture. They're old punk rock people. That's really who they are now. Now they do all the biggest shows, some of the biggest shows in the country, but really their hearts are in punk rock, so they've been great to work with.
I came up with those guys at Biff Tech back in the 90s, so I know them well. But I mean, I would say Montreal, no offense, Toronto has a great music scene, always has. But I do think that there is something special about Montreal and the way it embraces metal and hardcore. What would you say your experience has been?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like, I mean, look at, I think NoFX's last show ever, or their last tour, the biggest show was in Montreal. They love punk in Montreal and Quebec, and I think there's a lot of support for it, not only from like the people, but I think they get a lot of funding there as well, and they just really support the arts, I think, and people are able to pursue that more, I think.
So you are playing this year.
Montreal, yep.
Okay, so you played the Revival last year. You played 3 shows down in the U.S.
DC, Florida, and Long Beach.
Okay, so I mean, what does it feel like to? Because this is a tour you kind of came up watching, and not being a part of. Now you're a part of it.
Yeah, like I would go to Warped Tour back in the day. I don't know why we never really played. I think we played a merch tent one time in 2005 or something like that, but we've just always kind of done our own thing. And then when it came back this year, or last year, we were able to play all 3, and it's awesome. Like I grew up kind of going to some of these Warped Tours, seeing like My Chemical Romance and, all types of bands. And now they're having more like hardcore adjacent metalcore stuff that was, it's kind of newer to Warped Tour, I think, now than it was then. So the genres are always like, you've seen like Yellow Wolf and NoFX, and so it's good.
So Kevin, let's just go back to when you, I guess, dissolved Warped, and what you felt was going on. The word fractured has come up in a number of interviews I've read. So
the fractured for me, it was also. I mean, I always say in this business, if you stop getting goosebumps, get out. And honestly, I kind of was getting that point where it was tricky, because it kind of fell on Warped Tour to make Warped Tour happen. It was easy festival. We were working on a door deal. We were not getting guarantees for our shows. We were showing up, taking part of the door, like a club band would. And I think people started taking the festival for granted, that, oh, it'll be back next summer. It'll be coming to town. It'll be coming to town. And business had changed a lot, where bands used to be able to go and set up their records, and we'd work with the labels, and we were doing a lot of marketing, and then an album would come out, and when albums went away, it was singles. So I'd really one day at the front gates around end of 2016, I go, wow, I don't have the goosebumps this morning. And then I started paying attention to that, and around 2017 you were always going to have a rough summer, and there were some rough moments that summer, and I had already decided that 25 years would be great. Let's just wrap it up, and in a nice bow. I'll go out in 2018 with a bunch of my friends. It was much more oriented. We went a little bit for the nostalgia side of Warp versus a lot of new bands, and I had been offered a professorship at the University of Southern California. And I thought, like, okay, well, and then 2020, we did, or 2019, we did our post shows in Atlantic City and San Francisco in homage to Bill Graham, who was a big promoter there. I had to do it there. And with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had an exhibit opening, and I was like, hey, it ended on a perfect note. You know, it was just kind of, you know, I could have sold the name at that point. People wanted to buy it, but I had done a lot of other festivals, Mayhem, Taste of Chaos, so many, about 25 other lifestyle festivals. But Warped was so deep in my heart that I couldn't sell it. I could not sell the name because I don't think anyone would have carried it on the right way.
Well, that's it. I mean, you talk about the ethos, you talk about pairing with Evenco because they understand what you're doing. So I can imagine why it wouldn't feel right.
Yeah, it was just, you know, and then in 2020, I guess I was Nostradamus, knowing there was going to be a pandemic that would have made me bankrupt anyhow. If we had gone out in 2020, I would have been bankrupt.
Yeah, you
so
must have.
by being able to sit and teach classes online for so long, it was great. And then, you know, I started talking to people post-pandemic, young people. I talked to college students and everything, and there's a lot of amazing festivals out there. But as we know, the price went way up to festivals. So the entry point to festivals became restrictive to a lot of people. You know, you have the big festivals, you know, Lollapalooza, Coachella, but they're appealing to the top 10% of the economy, actually, for most people. I was like, there's so many people that need a community and maybe a culture that, and talking to my students, I was like, maybe there's a moment. I talked to other people, and then a company called Insomniac, Pasquale, who does EDC and some of the largest EDM festivals in the world. I got a call maybe at the right moment, and I went over and we talked, and he goes, hey, Kevin, you want to come in? It's your platform. We're here to support you. There's no pressure on you. And I was really feeling that if I brought this back right now, I wanted to pay homage to the past, but I didn't want to be a nostalgia festival. There's plenty of those with the older bands. I wanted to look forward to the future of community and bands because there are so many amazing young bands. And I have that other little tour, Summer School, and I went out on a bandwagon and rolled around on that for about a week and just watched a smaller group of young kids sitting at the front doors waiting for those bands, waiting for those things. And I said, maybe the timing would be right. They gave me the platform. Of course, it won't come back as a touring festival again. It just economically would never work, and physically my body can't take it anymore. And I insist at being at every show so I can deal with problems and make a decision right or wrong. And we went out, and they gave me the platform. I had no idea what the expectations would be, and to sell over 200,000 tickets without announcing the bands that first year at 3 stops was kind of crazy. And our ticket price of being $150 for a 2-day festival included fees to starting ticket price. We didn't have all kind of levels of VIPs. We have one. It was really kind of cool. It was fun. And as long as I have fun with it now, really want to have fun with things. And then they said, what do you want to do next year? And I go, well, and this made me go, wow, you know, there's a lot of perceived conflict between our countries, Mexico, Canada, and music could bring people together. And I know that might be filling my own head in some ways, but I remember how cool it was to tour with the Canadian bands. When we all got together, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe my little way, I'm going to call my friends in Evenco because of what they did. And there was a young guy in Mexico City who loved Warped Tour, and he works for Ocesa, the largest promoter down there. And I went into Pasquale, and those guys went in, and I said, hey, I think it's your platform, Kevin. Go do what you want to do with it. So we've added Mexico City, and we're up in Montreal, and they're doing wonderful. And you know, we're not selling out right away now. I didn't expect to. That was crazy. That was not Warped Tour. But ticket sales are good. We're adjusting quickly on. I was on calls yesterday. We're zeroing in on how far people will travel now with gas prices. That's going to become a big issue for people traveling to shows. I'm really saying we're going to have to really focus locally because I'm hearing people are canceling vacations, things such as that. But we can give them a great value because anyone who's ever been to Warped Tour, think about 2 days running around in the sun seeing all your bands. It's a good value, and you're going to be exhausted afterwards, and that might be a great choice for a lot of people. And I think it's going to work out this year.
Well, Andrew, I want to focus on something Kevin said, and it's the word community, right? And I feel like particularly now community is so important, especially given the political climate, especially given, how we kind of flattened after, during the pandemic, and we really need something like this. So I want to ask you, how you felt as, first of all, a concert goer, and now, it's somebody playing the festival itself. What kind of community this festival, Warped, in particular, can create? A community in terms of like-minded people to hang out with, and also nurturing bands and young bands and their careers.
Yeah, Warped Tour is a interesting one. Like, I remember last year when we were at the first one in DC. It's just I'm running into people that I've known for 20 years, and I've been, we've been doing the Euro festival circuit, and you're running into people of totally different genres, and you see them once a year. But it like, I went the day before we played. It was a 2-day thing in DC, and I just remember like going backstage, and it's like you're seeing so many people, and it's just, it brings a lot of different people together, and that's the best thing about going to shows and touring around, and just always having those connections, and whether you like it or not, I guess you're gonna.
And what about the opportunities for, you guys are an established band, but, the opportunities, and both of you can weigh in on this, like, how important is it now, especially that we're in this new crazy age of basically, free music, and bands aren't able to tour because it's too expensive. Like, how important is it to find this sort of incubator style festival for new bands to come up and
Oh, well, it used to be so great because I had a whole summer to work with those acts. And now it's like, so one of the ways we roll out our event, because I started talking to people, and people were like, and I do my research out just talking to people. And I had asked people, how many lines do you look down on a poster for a festival before you decide if it's good? And that's 2. It was about, some people said 3, but a lot of people were starting to say 2. And I go, well, there's all those names down below. And some people are going to say, I look them up, and of course you do. But a lot of people make their decision if that festival is worthy to them by those names. Warped was the first festival to go alphabetical. I listed my bands alphabetical, all the same font. So when I went back in and I said, okay, we're going to do this, but every band is going to be able to have their own moment and their own video, because they need their moment to shine amongst our crowd. We were able to build our mailing list, because I blew it up at the end of Warped Tour. I was one of those people that says, no one's getting this information to these people. So we had to start over, but we were able to build it up to 1.2 million followers pretty quickly. So when Comeback Kid gets told, like, you need to create your announce video, and you created your own announce video, and no other festival, I don't think, has ever asked you to do that.
No. And Dave from Sum 41, I asked him to do it because I guess they had just broken up, and I asked him to help me with this announce video, and he kind of took it upon himself to make a whole skit and everything, and it was great. I think Warped liked it, so it was a good way for us to be like, okay, we're playing Warped Tour. Kevin Lyman called us. Oh, we can't play it, so Comeback Kid should.
Yeah, so we make these scenarios, and I like a band up here, Lolo. Really, I kind of was like, wow, she could stand out in this, and all these bands. So when you look back at our videos, and we would release them, and we had a lot of, the first year was a little hard. Like, people were like, I don't know, video, they were getting them to us at the last minute. This year, people were getting confirmed and going, okay, we'll deliver our video tomorrow, or we've been thinking about our skit since we got the offer. And a lot of cameos came in, and those videos averaged anywhere from 100,000 to 2 million, those individual release videos. And all I want to do is, because we have to develop new artists, and I only have these weekend shows now, is I want to find those new potential headliners, because we're running out. We keep booking the same bands on these festivals. So investing in some of these bands you'll see that played the first year, playing the second year, will be the third year. That's what we used to do with Warped. We'd bring Paramore, we'd bring A Day to Remember, we'd bring them multiple. My Chemical Romance played multiple years before they broke. So I'm trying to do that with these festivals. So that was one way doing the videos. But you touched on something else. I was so nervous opening that first day, because I had one shot of getting it right. And I knew we were going to have bigger stages with bigger crowds and video and lights. Warped was never that type of show because we were moving. It had to be right as the festival between the stages. The festival of Warped Tour is between the stages for the fans. So we went back to the bands selling their own T-shirts, and it was a 10% honor system merch rate. We had all the nonprofits. We had about 25, 26. And the minute we opened in D.C., it was like the fans were so tuned in, and they came so early because, of course, we didn't announce what time the bands were playing. Yeah. That when we opened the doors, there was 40,000 tickets sold. We had 24,000 people through the door in the first hour and a half. In Long Beach, we had opened 2 hours early, and we had 45,000 people there for the first band. But what was so awesome to me was the nonprofit zone just got flooded. Everyone wanted to engage and sign up to write Love on Their Arms, to help keep abreast, maybe register to vote down there. And to me, that's like you create fun, but then you find these people want civic activity. Our canned food drive, we still did. Drop off the canned food to get in early, and we did like 85,000 pounds of food the first day in D.C., and then later on, I'm rambling a little bit, but I was able to start blending my sponsors in at the end. So Geico, not very strange for Warped Tour, but they wanted to be part of the show. So in Florida, we charge our guests $20 to come. That money gets donated to the local food bank. And I didn't know how to blend in an insurance company. I lived in a city that burned down last year. So a lot of good thoughts with insurance. But I said, well, that lizard's kind of cool. Maybe he can come to the show. That'd be fun. He can mosh around in the pits. That's a good time. But I was able to convince the brand to match the funds from the donation from the industry, who sometimes will complain about paying a $20 guest list ticket. People were throwing down 50s and 100s. They wanted to help because this was when SNAP benefits were being taken. SNAP is a food support system in America that was being cut by our administration right at that moment. So they matched that. And then all of a sudden, Geico goes, we want to do a drone show. And I'm like, fucking drone show at Warped Tour? That's crazy. We're not that. But we designed a whole drone show where the lizard was skateboarding, and he had like 2 cans of food, and he came and dropped them in the box, and then we were able to put the nonprofit's name up, and Geico supports the nonprofit, help your community. So it's been really kind of exciting for me in a weird way because I had these things that I've never been able to do. And it's taken my creative brain, but it's also put me back in my production mode. Right now, I'm all about production efficiencies. Because if we're going to keep the ticket price, I have to look at labor calls. I have to look at the size of the loading docks. And I'm working with a lot of people that do these giant EDM shows. So they have to switch their whole mentality to come work at Warped Tour, where they may have different types of security levels. At Warped Tour, like you said, it was a big hangout backstage. Everyone's hugging. We monitor our own community. You don't need the security. And the nicest thing bands were telling me was, we play a lot of festivals, and that's part of our business plan, playing festivals now. But now we can come home. And that was the coolest thing I was told. Now we can come home to Warped Tour. That was awesome.
Ooh, that hit me in the heart.
And by the way, you talk about like production, like Kevin Lyman was like, when I saw him in DC, he gave me a box of Come Back In merch. So he's carrying the band's merch. He's really there, like in the morning, like doing the things.
They had no idea how much merch would be delivered by these bands. So
right.
It was all over the place. I was sorting merch in the rain. It was raining. And
yeah, U-Haul's coming with like, with 5 bands merch or whatever, and he's handing it out. So that was it. I was not surprised, but it was cool to see.
Yeah, very hands-on. I'm imagining also. I mean, this whole scene, this whole movement, this whole tour is, not about these big giant brands, right? It's been somewhat more subversive, right? So how do you deal with sponsors? How are you discerning who you want to allow in and who you won't?
Well, it's really interesting. People go, oh, when did you sell out? I go, probably around 1995. Or maybe the first time I ever took money working on a show, I guess I sold out as a punk rocker, But
it is the Vans Warped Tour.
It is the Vans Warped Tour. But it's people, I think the fans recognize that we pump that money back into the show. I've turned down some sponsors, and I won't say who they are, but I turned some down this year because morally and psychologically, I'm not the perfect human being. Trust me. I'm not at all. I have failures. I fucking support
I'm
corporate
leaving
things.
then. I thought you
And
were-
none of us are. We all do. So it is a little bit of a balance, and that's the cool thing about Insomniac, because they call and say, "Hey, Kevin, we got this deal. They're willing to come in for $300,000," and I just go, I just don't feel like we can navigate this decision and figure out how to creatively put them in. And they're like, "Cool, no problem." I've never had a partner like that. And even it was like, this year, it's like, I went in and said, "Look, it's really strange. Like, we're in D.C. again. I have bad timing in D.C. We're the same fucking day as Trump's UFC fight on the lawn. How fucking hard punk. I mean, it's just so. Last year I was there for the Trump parade, and I just can't time that right.
Trump parade was it?
The Trump parade. But we're across the other side of the city. But it isn't. It's a balance. But really trying to keep the value to the fans. Ultimately, getting people back into live music was so important, because over the pandemic, we almost lost a generation of young people that would go to a live concert. They were gaming, they were doing other issues, they were doing things. So many people were saying, "I'm not into concerts." And I'm like, you're at the formative years that will get into your DNA to go to live shows, and you're not going to shows, you're not into them. So with Warped, it was how to get new people in, and through our data and everything, and finding you use data now, but about a third of the people that came to Warped Tour were at their first festival or show. This year, we're selling tickets, and it's loose. This isn't anything scientific, but 2 to 1 on new credit cards. So 2 people are using a new credit card. Might be the same person has a new name. Maybe, I don't know. In America, we change our names, but it feels like we're on to building a movement again in a small way. And if I can be a catalyst or a spark to that movement for other people to do festivals, for bands to start forming and sharing tours and guarantees together, because it's going to be hard for people. We were ramping tickets like crazy. We drop our first bombs, and then all of a sudden the ticket sales dropped. And now the gas prices. But I know people will want to be entertained this summer, and man, we're going to working so hard to throw bonus things at the shows and extra surprise guests, and just try to give them a couple good days to get away and forget.
Well, I have a couple questions for you, Andrew, sort of leading off of this. First of all, how important is the kind of, or how do you balance sort of the ethical importance of being part of a tour that, does meaningful things in the community, and then also just, you're in a band, you're trying to make a living? Like, is that something that you and Comeback Kid kind of look at when you're asked to play?
Yeah, you want to be involved with stuff that you're aligned with, but like you said, I don't think we have to sell ourselves out very often. We don't really have too many corporate sponsors trying to get involved in our life, really. But no, we're just lucky. A lot of these big companies, big festivals, people that are doing, we talk about Eventco, Warped, people that are doing these festivals are into the music. And so a lot of the times, even when it's like really big companies and stuff, when you get to the nitty gritty, these are people that have the same experiences as me, and have gotten successful with their music, and I think that's great. It's for hardcore and punk and our kind of music to have a mainstream shine, I think it's super cool. It hasn't always had that, so it's trickling down. So
I love to hear you say that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just you've been around for a couple decades.
Mm-hmm.
What is the state of touring? What is the state of your scene right now? I mean, I know you spend a lot of time in Europe. Is it more sustainable there than it is here, or it's just that's where your fan base is?
Maybe at one time I felt like that because we were doing a lot of European, most bands will go to Europe and do this festival circuit there, and it's it really helps out as far as keeping yourself afloat and stuff and playing to larger audiences. But yeah, it's. Sorry, where?
Oh, just the state of the scene. I mean, so much has changed in the music industry. It's really, I mean, bands are canceling tours all the time at this point when they're, so yeah.
Hardcore punk, it's bigger than it's ever been.
I love it.
I attribute that to during the pandemic, so many new bands came out. I remember coming out of the pandemic and seeing, starting to play with some of these new bands. And I knew that what they looked like already because everyone's watching them on YouTube. Everyone's watching them on Instagram. So now people know what bands look like. It wasn't as much like that in the past. Younger DIY labels are like becoming kind of mainstream. There's a lot of partnerships. Like there's a label called Flat Spot that I love in New York, and it's bands like Speed, and now they have Terror, and these young bands, Speed, for example, that's come out of the pandemic, and now, they're doing huge collabs, and, you have, it's just super, it's a sensation, and they're, touring with Turnstile and stuff. The Turnstile thing's crazy, and, it's like our music is what the big bands at Lollapalooza were when you were coming up,
And it's also, we've never seen a more diverse scene of music. I have a lot of people. There wasn't. The females. Now there's so many amazing female bands. I mean, our lineup, if you go through it, is really stacked with amazing females. Led by Lolo being one of them in Canada, but there's Honey Revenge and just so many of them. But the thing that's really awesome to me is we never had black people playing punk rock. Really, we had Bad Brains, we had Fishbone in my scene, very few, and now you've got them lead Paradox, you've got Magnolia Park, and last year the audience became extremely more diverse, and now with the cool thing about doing with Mexico, a lot of the bands from Mexico will come up and play in Long Beach with us, and we will be going, we were supporting in some of the shows with them. It goes back to that bringing a larger community together. So when we looked at the shows, and there was never that crack through with the African American community, really, very few. And last year when I looked out over that crowd, I was like, oh, this is becoming super much more representative of America in general. Of course, in Southern California, we're going to be largely Hispanic on it, but we're very representative there. But to have those bands taking a leadership when in the States, and I don't know if Paradox has really come up here yet and played. I think we might have them on Montreal. It's funny, I was looking at the lineup last night. We went to a dinner, and the waitress was telling me about her trip to Coachella, and my wife, of course, she's like, oh, have you ever been to the Warped Tour? And she's like, oh, and she went through the lineup. That lineup is so stacked, that we think we're going to have a lot of the fans that remember, and those people will come, the people that remember Warped, and I'm sure they're going to get turned on to some of this younger music because it's super impressive and super diverse.
Well, let's stay on that sort of diversity line of thinking. First of all, I mean, I know back in the day there wasn't a lot of diversity, and I know you took sort of some of the heat for that. Has this been an intentional addition, or the scene is changing?
It's a natural, because there's a lot of talent out there. It's not that we didn't ask female bands to play, but it was hard. Gwen Stefani started on Warped Tour in 1995. Paramore broke out of Warped Tour. Then you had unique, kind of out of left field, I guess, for Warped Tour we talk about. But Katy Perry started on Warped Tour. BB Rexa started on Warped Tour. But I wasn't for lack of asking the ones that were there. L7 was on the first Warped Tour. But there wasn't a lot of those bands, and I would go ask the Distillers or these bands, and they would pass. So sometimes you would get a pass. And you also, it's a fine line between wanting to do, and then run a business. Unfortunately, I have to be fiscally responsible. Warped was never driven by profits, but I had to be at least responsible to pay the bills each year. So you would take who wanted to play, and you would piece it together. But, it was really, fun for me, like when a Joan Jett would call and say, I want to go on Warped Tour. And she would come out and play all summer. And, like, it was Legacy on Warped Tour when she came out. And she helped drive some more. And then there was Shira Girl, who's known for building a stage and barging Warped Tour. And, but it's this year, it's just natural. The natural talent out there allows you to build a lineup of a mix of you don't have to think about it. It's just happening.
And what about, some of the other criticisms, and I'm sure there are plenty leveled at every concert promoter, every show, everywhere. Overheating, overcrowding, being dangerous, a dangerous space for women was one of them, for sure.
The Warped Tour production staff was all female. And there was a lot of rules on Warped Tour backstage. I could not, when I was starting the Warped Tour, I toured with my peers. It was everyone I knew. And our community really kind of self-regulated. There were some bad eggs in our community that we were able to extract without social media, without the platform. In 2017, by then I had to depend on people trusted in the business to hopefully send me the best. Because at that point, I was either going to be a mentor or a disciplinarian. I wasn't friends with everyone. I'm 65. By then, I was in my 50s. I'm not hanging out necessarily with 18 and 19-year-old band members. I would hope that I was being sent the best of the best. And sometimes I wasn't. But I was also someone that probably should have not answered everyone when they asked something on social media. It was a new time. And I felt in punk rock, people would come and talk to me under my tent. That's why I was there every day. We could talk through any issues. I sat there. It's not, I was there every day. And then I started seeing people maybe complaining about something online without walking. They'd walk over and ask me for more guests for a guest list. Right. But they wouldn't come over and talk to me about an issue about our community. And it would end up online. And I felt the person deserved an answer, which was a mistake. Not everyone deserves an answer online. I was learning. I had no training. There was no social media training at that point. And I also believed in due process. I believed, I did ask some artists to not come on the tour. The tour had never started, and these people were always young, and they were sent to me by people I trusted. And when someone sends you someone and says, they're sober, let's go that. So they're sober, they're not on heroin anymore, because I'd stolen heroin. I kept heroin away from that kid on a tour all summer one time and had the dealers arrested. No one knew I was dealing with it. I knew what he was. I had a narking out his own singer. And I would get him, I'd have the dealers arrested each day. Got him into rehab. I was on the board of Music Cares for a long time. And I said, is he ready? And they said, he's ready, he's sober. Comes out, complete fucking mess, drinking a handle of rum, doing some shitty stuff, and I call the manager, and he goes, well, he's not doing heroin anymore. And so I was addressing these problems head on. And you have to learn how, when you're going to do this, to make decisions right or wrong, but in real time. You have to make decisions each day, hundreds of decisions. And I made mistakes, as anyone's going to in life. You're going to make some mistakes, and especially when you have 1,000 people on the road. And I didn't know these people like I used to. You put me around Bad Religion, you put me around Pennywise, you put me around Dead Kennedys. I knew how to deal with those because we were there. But it got a little messy. I will admit I probably made a couple mistakes. I trusted some other people who said, but I live and die by them. That's what you have to in this business. You make them and you learn. You learn. We got groups like Safer Scenes and RAIN and some of those organizations. I went and found organizations through time that could help me. That summer in 2017 was hard on me. And I found an organization called A Voice for the Innocent. I asked them to send me a counselor on the road to help me with this stuff. And they came out on the road with me, and they were willing to answer questions and things and talk to people on the tours, because we were also trying to educate. But I'm telling you, the women that worked for me on that tour saw someone that they suspected for years that might be underage, we had no problem walking right up, asking the person for ID, and then if they provided over to 18, that's legal in America, to be around people. If it wasn't, they'd be escorted out, and the band would be told, you fuck up again, you're off the tour. So, live and die by it, I guess.
Thank you. Thanks for answering. We have less than 20 minutes left, actually, so we'd love to open it up to audience questions if anybody is interested. I have plenty more, but
I got you, Tara. I got you.
Hey, all
Hi,
right.
girl. Okay, I'm going to head down to the audience. If you do have a question, can I just see your hand in the air? Let me see you. Let me see you. There you are. I'll come to you, sir. Do you want to stand? What's your name? Spencer. It's a pleasure. Here you go.
Thank you. Guys, thank you so much. Tara, Kevin, Andrew, this is awesome. My question is for Kevin, and I can tell that it's more of a sensitive topic. It's just come across me now because I don't hear people talk about it very often, but you taking on that much responsibility to make sure everyone's behaving above board, that sounds, at least to me, pretty uncommon as a festival runner to be taking that on. Is that something that is more of the norm, or Yeah, I'm just curious.
I mean, I don't know if today's festival directors do. But this scene was so dear to my heart. It gave me a chance. I didn't have a chance as a kid much, and I found a home in punk rock. I found a way to make a living. I'm pretty terminally unemployable. My first job was as a professor, and I don't know, I think they let me hang around because the students like me. But I don't know. Just the way I had to do it. Ultimately, I'm just a worker. I get up and work every day. These guys know I'm not part of the party. I've been a couple times years ago, but not anymore. I get up and work for my scene and community, and that's all we can hope to do. And to be able to be around, punk rock will allow you to exist, and if you make a living within it, but you can't take advantage of it. And that's what I ultimately say to everyone. I don't think Fat Mike's ever taken advantage of it. Brett Gurewitz has never taken advantage of it. We've all put as much back into it or more, much more than we've ever taken out. But I look at it and go, anytime you can do anything in life that you get up every morning and you're pretty excited about doing, pretty cool. You know, we were talking, I guess I'm starting to think about my mortality. Me and my wife last night were having a discussion. She goes, do you ever think about when you die? I go, jeez. You know, when I die, I guess I'll be gone. I guess, I don't know. But some people look back and say, they may not have liked Kevin Lyman, but they'll have to respect what I've done, I guess. And I guess if you can leave with most of your integrity intact of this world, you're in a pretty good place. And I feel like I've done
Well
it.
said. Well said. We have another festival question as well. I'm just over here. What's your name?
Jess.
Okay, Jess, stand up so they can see you. Here you go.
Appreciate all the insight, guys. It's really interesting to hear the ins and outs and you guys just being raw about kind of what goes on behind the scenes. My question is kind of a doubleheader. If you could go back to when you started the festival, what advice would you give yourself to really set yourself up for success / advice you would give to someone else looking to start their own festival? That's more so for Kevin. And then, Andrew, I guess for you, what advice would you give yourself playing your first festival that you're headlining at?
Well, I start every class at USC with, I tell you to wear your earplugs.
Oh.
And then I end every class telling you to wear your earplugs. Because I have the worst tinnitus. I used to work 320 nights a year in the clubs of LA. And I love live music so much, and it's getting harder and harder to spend a day or going out and seeing it. But as a festival producer, and more of a business question you're asking, is become an expert within whatever scene of music you're in. I learned, mentally I was taking notes for the moment I started Warped Tour. The minute I started working, I used to work 320 shows a year. I ran all the shows for Golden Voice. I did the first show at the Coachella grounds with Pearl Jam to fight Ticketmaster. We were doing benefit shows, Rock the Vote, Rock for Choice. I did all the first shows. I was getting this picture. I went out on Lollapalooza. I'd never been on tour. I got asked by Perry Farrell to go on the road, but I'd sit there and watch Henry Rollins play at 1 PM to empty chairs and grass and going, wouldn't it be awesome if he got to open for Jane's Addiction tonight? His career would have changed. All these moments I was building up over time. And then in 1995, I'd also been doing snowboard benefits, board aid, boarding for breast cancer. I was sitting in the snow one day, and I had just overheard. Listen to your community. Listen to what's going on. And someone mentioned the X Games were coming. And I knew these sports, skateboarding, music, lifestyle that we were doing in Southern California was going to get to be known across the world. And I go, this is my moment where you have to go out on a limb when you start a festival. You're going out on a limb and sawing it off. And you're standing out on the end of that branch or that limb. And you have to figure out how to sprout roots before you splat on the ground. Because you're chasing it down the hill. When you decide to go for it in life, you got to go. And you're going to be that cart, and you got to build the brakes while it's going down the hill, and that brake could be sponsorship or bands' commitment. But those bands trusted me. There was enough bands in 1995 to wing it with me. They were willing to do something different. Sublime, No Doubt, Quicksand, Orange 9mm, a whole bunch of diverse bands. And then we kind of got legitimized when NoFX and punk rock, NoFX and Pennywise the following year said, wow, Kevin, we hear this is crazy, we're in. And it just started going from there. And I think the bands and crews, like you said, they see I get up and work in the morning. I was first off the bus in the morning, and a lot of times the last on the bus. So be all in when you decide to start your own festival. But always realize that you have to make sure that you're just not talking to your friends, because they're going to go, yeah, do the festival, and you're going to think your festival is going to be bigger than it probably will be. So whatever you think it's going to be, cut it in half and a quarter the first time, and think that if you could survive to the next year.
Yeah, and I think the question was advice if you're headlining a festival.
If you're headlining, yes.
Right. And just to kind of echo what Kevin said, like being in the mix, I think is important. Like I've been in bands with people like this, or I've seen bands like, you know, that they kind of isolate themselves and they kind of, you know, then they'll go out to play and they'll play their show. But I'm such a person, and you know, I think it's really invaluable to be out there and be there early and check out the opening bands, support them, maybe talk to them if you feel inclined. But and then, you know, along the line you'll see it's so cool to see these younger artists like grow over years, and I think that's just the main thing, just kind of be in the mix. And it's good to know like what's going on with the music scene around you, especially like I'm getting like 44 now. So
Oh, you look great.
Oh, thank you. But
What about me? I'm 65.
Oh, you look
Come
better.
on.
You look better. Although I think your wife is plotting your death. I don't know.
once you get jaded and once you don't really want to like
Love you, Kevin.
see what's going on, that's when it kind of loses the plot. So I just really like supporting the young bands and just trying to like be aware of what's happening. I think that's very, very important.
Love that. Tara, how much time do we have on your screen?
We have 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Okay.
I want to say as
Please.
somebody, my music career was long ago, and we were, as I said, never cool enough to play Warped Tour. We were a little too commercial. But, you know, there were those acts who we were opening for on big festivals, and they would always come and watch us. And, like, it meant so much. It meant so much to us. And, you know, you also never know when you're going to be opening for that band too, right? So forging these relationships, but also taking your role model status really seriously. Like, you are a mentor. You're doing what these kids want to do. So help them.
Just be kind.
Yeah, man.
Show love.
You think it's easy, eh? Just be kind.
Yeah, it is.
Just like it is. It definitely is easy, right? Yes, give it up. Love that. I'll come back there in just a moment because we have some time. But Dom, you had a pretty good question about kind of like the future of the vision. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my question for you, Kevin, is now that you're back doing Warped, any future plans? And another one was, is it harder to find more people to perform nowadays with concerts, or?
Well, that's not a problem. We've probably had 3,000 submissions for 2027 already.
Is there more or less than there used to be, would you say?
There's 3,000's a lot. We used to have probably right around that amount of bands. I have a booking meeting on Friday, and you know, it's hard because, you know, but there's so many good bands. But then it's really easy to book now for me. And I don't do it. I have a person that deals with I'm not great with dealing with agents. I've been dealing with them. So I have someone that deals with them for me a lot. But it's really straight now. My economic model might not fit their economic model. It's okay. And I'm proud of the bands that I've helped get to this point that I can't afford anymore. It's a good feeling, because I remember those days of giving them $250 for their first show, and now they may get $1 million for a festival. That's awesome. But my model is different, so it's a very quick conversation. But it's nice how many bands now are coming back and going, hey, Kevin, we may do these other, but we're going to come play one for you. We're going to come play one. We'll come play one. And if you get 8, 10 of those bands to say, we'll come play one, then it allows us to pull the whole scene forward again.
Was that MGK last year? Did he just do one?
He came and did 2, you know. It was
Avril maybe.
Avril coming in last year playing it was her first Warped Tour, and my daughter works with Avril. She was working with Avril for a long time, and I tried to get Avril the first time to play Warped Tour, but there was a buffer there. She was a pop artist, and they were pushing her that direction. And I heard she told my daughter, she goes, that was a lot of fun. I would like, yeah, that's what I was saying 20 years ago. It was a lot of fun. You would have had fun. So, yeah, but booking, there's a lot of submissions. We do our Ernie Ball Battle of the Bands again that we used to do. We're doing that again. They're getting thousands of submissions. But the coolest thing is in Long Beach, when we had 45,000 people or so in the doors at 11 a.m., and they went up on that main stage and struck that note, about 20,000 people just turned and ran to that stage. And I was thinking that who knows where that band's going to go. But they're going to have an amazing video because we use iMag and video and a perfect cut for them that we're going to be able to give them that video. And hopefully they go on to great things. But if not, 20, 30 years from now, they'll be able to play for their grandkids the biggest show they ever played in their lives. That'd be cool to be able to show them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're back here, Tara. Can you see us? Here. Okay, Ben, you want to get up? And let's ask the guys. It's literally about hardcore and its relevance today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ben, and sorry, this is a question for Andrew mainly. There's been this whole rise of hardcore basically since the pandemic, and obviously it had been prominent before. And, I was someone who, when I was younger, I listened to Have Heart, and I feel like that was a whole thing for me where that was this big introduction to this new world that I had never been part of when I was 11 years old. But now that I'm significantly older, 29 now, there's this new wave of hardcore kind of going around, and I kind of want to know why you believe that it is rose to prominence so significantly, post-pandemic, because it's almost becoming the word for punk rock, which is very interesting to me as someone who's, lived multiple waves of this already. So yeah, just why do you think it's so special these days and continuing to thrive?
I think probably it's maybe one of the most exciting live types of music ever. Like it's so explosive. When we're watching when we're scrolling the internet, you can see the energy and just the charge that hardcore gives, and it's just very, very easy to see, and it's worn on the sleeve. I just think that it's and just I said it before, but yeah, like attributing a lot of that to post-pandemic, social media, now we can see what the bands look like. We can see how these shows are. Like, there's a lot of bands that we can see are just crushing right now. And you're just seeing it, like you might not even know their songs, but you're seeing their live shows on your feed or on YouTube and stuff. So it's just, I think just being able to see shows, like hardcore is influencing all other genres. It's you see it in hip hop, you see it in a lot of different things. So the energy of that is definitely contagious, I think. So that's what I think.
And it's a good time. People are pissed off. People are pissed off. And you know what? They get on stage, burn up that energy, and now be part of a community. I've never seen, first round hardcore was just always weird to me. It was just dudes all fucking jumping around on stage back in the old hardcore days. It's cool to me to see females at the hardcore shows, Drain, those kind of bands, Haywire. It's like everyone's just pissed off, burning up that energy together on that stage as a united community, and just gets to fucking burn it off. I think that's a lot of it, and it's so cool to see it now because I never understood hardcore in New York. New York hardcore, East Coast hardcore, just a bunch of dudes all sweaty jumping around on each other. I mean, I was into ska because there was girls there, so it was like kind of cool.
All right, awesome. We have a really good question straight down the center here from Jennifer. Want to get up so the guys can see you? Here you go, my love.
Hi, thank you so much. My question was, you mentioned some of the influences for punk, like you said, skateboarding, there's graffiti, BMX. What do you see for the counterculture as the prevalent influences now, like on the music, on the festivals, all of it?
Love it. Thank you.
I mean, I think there's a subtle activism, in a way. There's a subtle activism. I think people are getting tired, and they want to find other communities, whether they want to join a nonprofit, whether they want to support their communities. So subtle activism, it doesn't always have to be about ranting left, right, this kind of thing. There's a subtle movement of young people who feel that they have to start taking control. And sometimes we all feel isolated at times right now. We feel overwhelmed, we feel isolated. That I think we're seeing this subtle activism that groups are forming, people are forming, realizing that maybe I can help to my fingertips. I can't help this global craziness going on, but if I help to my fingertips, which is the community that I can help control, I'm really feeling that's coming up. And that's kind of what punk rock, we were willing to challenge things. The anarchy was like, let's run around and get crazy. But punk rock was always like, we always tried to fix our community a little better, believe it or not. Maybe that meant like breaking a window of a shop. No, but it was like, but there was moments in time where we were always pulling together to make our community better. And that usually was, we do soup kitchens, and we do things in the community. We do the Rock the Vote choices, Rock for Choice shows. Those were all stemmed from the punk rock community in Los Angeles. We were doing those shows often, and it was really cool. And I think I see that coming back again.
Awesome. I think we have time for about maybe two more questions, Tara? One or two. We'll see how it goes.
Are we allowed to go a little bit over? I don't know.
How much time is there?
We have 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes.
Let's try. We'll go with one first. Okay, Fiora, want to get up? I like this because it's a question that nods to kind of the past and the present. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Kevin and Andrew? My name is Fiora. My question for you is, with the new generation of punk rockers, and I think just my generation, Gen Z in general, is having a really hard time leaving the house. I want to know, what is your advice, and what do you think the new generation of punk rockers need to learn from our mentors?
To write good songs.
It was nice meeting you the other night. I think we met on Monday night at the Bovine. Yeah, how are you? It really ended up, it's connected, and it still comes down to great songs. If you listen to the punk rock, the songs that, the bands and artists that have existed over time still write great songs. I mean, any form of music, it starts with the song. And I mean, you're writing songs right now. You got an album. He just flew down. Give him a hand for coming all the way down here from Jersey, or all the way up here from Jersey.
Cheers.
Just to do this today.
Yeah, you just got. I mean, it's hard for me to say. Like, I'm surprised that you're saying, it's hard for you guys to leave the house. Right. You just gotta, and bands, I think, have to just show that it's worth leaving the house. Like, make your shows exciting and give a reason to leave the house. I think that's all I can say.
And for artists out there, we were talking earlier. It's about staying in the game too. You got to be able, as an artist, to take the highs and lows. And the artists that have sustained that, we were talking about H2O in America, or Less Than Jake I used to manage. Yeah. They've been around 30, 40 years, never really having too many. They just, that nice, steady career. That's the best one you could ever have.
Cruising altitude. But no, we've definitely had our ups and downs, and for it to slowly sometimes go up, those are nice wins, and we've been doing this for like 20 years. But Kevin was even saying, he's like, hey, like backstage, he's like, you guys kind of stuck with it, and that's really important. Like, you can't really just expect to like go overnight. Some people do, but yeah.
We have time for one more question right over here. Hi, guys. This is Allison, and he has a question with regards to the artist and how you kind of vet them. I'll let him ask. Go ahead.
Hey, my name is Alliston Davis. I do music. And I wanted to ask, when you're looking for new artists to join your festival lineup, what are you looking for? And on your side, what do you think is missing in your shows that you are looking for?
I don't know if we're missing, but I think you have to have a great live show. You have to tie those great songs into a great live show, because you are competing against at least 4, if not more, stages performing at the same time. You're performing against everything that's going on between the stages. So ultimately, the song has to tie into the live show. And sometimes it's not about how many followers you have or how many things. We book bands, and some people go, wow, you only booked a band that has 900 followers. I go, but I was at a bar and saw their live show. And there were some songs that connected with me that, had a little bit of a platform going up. But it really comes down to just, you got to tie yourself into a live show, because don't go on a festival if you don't have your live show together, because that will hurt your career. I've seen more careers hurt from people not being able to perform live at a festival.
Oh, mic on, thank you. Everyone put your hands together for Kevin. Put your hands together for Andrew and my girl, Tara.